And I
thing.
think what's cool about that is it can look so much better, not just with sex, but with our health and everything, right? Like it can be, and sex is such an important part of it too, but everything has the potential to be so much better that if we're chasing this pre-pregnancy, pre-mom life state, we're not going to get to that place, right? We're not going to get through that portal and into that incredible place that's uncomfortable, but so transformative.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Pelvic Pulse podcast. I have Dr. Kate with me. She is a mama baby dyad holistic health specialist with a background as a licensed naturopathic doctor, IBCLC, and holistic sleep coach. Dr. Kate is obsessed with mothering the mother. She does so by supporting the dyad through naturopathic medicine, feeding support, and biologically normal sleep support. Her mission is to change the way we approach postpartum. By honoring and nurturing the connection between mom and baby, mom can achieve true healing, and both mom and baby can thrive. Dr. Kate uses her decade of clinical experience, her own postpartum experience, and the experience of working with hundreds of postpartum women and their babies to transform the postpartum experience for the dyad. Most importantly, she is a mom to 2 wild and crazy boys, and she lives in beautiful southern Portugal with her family. Welcome to the show, Dr. Kate. Oh, Dr. Kate, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited that we get to have this conversation.
Seriously, I was just going over some of the things that you are lit up to talk about. And before we hit play and like we're together in this space, I was just thinking about, what's the message, or where do I kind of want to go with this? Because what you even wrote in your bio and what you wrote about in terms of what you like to talk about and share with the world, it got me thinking about so many aspects of postpartum care. And I'd love maybe to start with, what was your personal experience with pregnancy and postpartum with both or one of your boys, whichever story feels like most alive, I guess, right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So my postpartum experience with my first was definitely what got me started down this path of working with postpartum mamas. I was pregnant during residency of naturopathic medical school. So pregnancy was a little bit of a blur. I don't remember a ton of it, but the day after I was done with my residency, I went into labor.
No
Um,
way.
Beautiful labor. Yeah, it was absolutely, the timing was incredible. My body was waiting, I think.
Yeah,
So,
it knows the time.
exactly. And the birth experience itself was amazing. And that's what I had planned for, was the birth. And I didn't give any thought to what postpartum was going to be like. I was a naturopathic doctor. I worked with babies. I was well on my way to being an IBCLC at that point. I was like, I got this. And I was thrown for a loop, like as so many moms are, right? I was just, my whole world turned upside down. I was exhausted, not sleeping, not taking care of myself, not nourishing my body. My mood was, it was just all over the place. I was living in this place of just like resentment to, the world, and like being put in this box of motherhood that I was not at all prepared for. And I didn't know I wasn't prepared. I thought I had it handled. And it was really, really kind of disconcerting. And I was working with babies. I went back to work a few months after having my first. And I was working with babies and with young children. And I would see the moms who were not my patients mirroring back what I was experiencing. And I could just see it, I could see it in their faces that they were having such similar experiences that they were not talking about. They were not getting support for. And they were just, living in the same world that I was, which was lonely and isolating and scary. And I started to see this kind of mirrored back, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to do something. Like, if not for me, for these other mothers that are out there. And the first thing that I needed to do was get some support. And so I was about a year postpartum. Like, it took me a year to get to that place where I was like, okay, this is enough. Like, I can't push through this anymore. I'm not going to be able to just buckle down and work harder here. Like, I need more support. And, I finally received that support, and received, appropriate nutritional support and support for my mood. And the most fascinating thing to me was my first was a really high needs baby, like one of those highly sensitive babies that didn't sleep, was, really just needed me all the time. And the most fascinating thing was that as I healed, as I got support and I got better, he started sleeping a little bit more. He started being a little bit more regulated, a little bit calmer of a baby. And now that certainly could just be time. He was a year, maybe that was just a coincidence, but I had the sense that it wasn't, that my nervous system, my emotional state was really affecting how he was experiencing the world. And it was that feedback loop, right? Because I would be in this just totally dysregulated state, and it would affect his sleep, and then he wouldn't sleep well, and that would make me more dysregulated and more tired. And it was just this big loop. And so I started to think about what, could I bring this to my patients, the moms of my patients? And I had a couple of families that I felt like I was close enough to that I could be like, hey, can I support you in this way as we're, working with your child? And I started to see the same results in those moms as well. And with the babies, when we were stuck with the babies, like if we were dealing with, like reflux or something like that, like we would get 80% of the way there. But that last little bit, until I started supporting mom more, I couldn't clear that, which I thought was so interesting. And 9 times out of 10, it was like mom was that needle that was moving it. And it was just such an incredible experience to be able to work with these families in this way and have them experience the same thing that I did in my postpartum journey there. And then the pandemic happened and I was still in clinic, and my family decided to move to Portugal. My husband was able to get a job here, which was amazing. And right after we got to Portugal, I had my second, about 2 months after we got here.
Whoa.
But that was a completely different postpartum experience because I was prepared. I knew that I could go down this road again. And so I had my support systems set up. But the interesting thing with that experience was that I wanted to go deeper. I wanted to heal, and I think a little bit more profound way than I did with my first. So I started to bring in the embodiment work and more of the somatics and, some of the generational trauma stuff that inevitably comes up postpartum, which I know you speak well to that. I started to go deeper there and have now started to play around with, can I go deeper in that way with my clients? So now I am really working to go deep, right? So I'm taking this opportunity now to work with moms in a little bit different way and to do that really kind of deep work.
Whoa. Thank you so much
that was a lot. I felt like
I think that's perfect. It sets the stage. And, I have so many questions about so many aspects of what you just shared. And let's just clarify something first. Where were you living before you guys moved to Portugal?
In Arizona.
Okay. And are you American? Like you guys are both American?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm just curious, just your speculation, I guess. Yes, it was your second coming to Portugal. But did you see or did you notice any changes or differences, I guess, between US care to the care available even in Portugal for postpartum?
It was a very different experience. I had complete placenta previa with my second, so I ended up with a C-section. So it was a very, very different just birth experience in general. Okay. And as far as postpartum care, it was pretty similar. I know different places in Europe are, provide different resources postpartum, but I had a 1 week check to check my incision. And then I had that 6-week postpartum check that is, we get in the US. So I didn't see much of a difference that way. What I did see a difference with is that life is a little bit slower here. It's just a little less stressful. I'm on the southern coast of Portugal. And so like we're on the beach and it's just a little bit chiller. So I don't think that I had the same stress levels that I did with my first for sure. And I also didn't have a rush to like get right back to it, right back to work. So I think that was a difference.
What was the time span then for you for your second coming back to work? Just so,
I took almost a full year off.
wow.
I really needed to heal and heal, in that deeper way. And I had the opportunity and the space to do that. And I jumped on it and I was going to
Heck
take that.
yeah. Heck
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, yeah, what could you share maybe about the effects, like maybe a little more specifics? Because you said before with your first, you were experiencing mood swings and just malnourishment. So what did you feel in the second round?
I mean, I definitely did have some mood stuff, but it was more of the very typical baby blues that you
Mm,
experience. So that day 3 to 5 kind of dip. And it was very much, I just would start crying and I'm like, okay, that's why I'm crying. It's hormonal. And it was, 2 weeks and I was okay. I didn't have that same kind of mood for sure.
mm,
My energy levels were also significantly different, which I, absolutely attribute to the way that I was able to take care of myself. So I was just, even after having a C-section, I was up and moving, and I just had more kind of energy. I was thinking a little bit more clearly.
mm.
And I didn't have the mood swings. I didn't have those up and downs that were so scary after my first. It came so unexpected.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And then I guess I know I'm popping around a little bit, but in your pregnancy the second time, maybe early on, is that when you were starting to do the embodiment work, or was that kind of later?
No, I really started after. So I had an interesting experience, and you can stop me from talking too much if
It's
this is
okay.
too much. But when I was pregnant with my second, I had that complete placenta previa. So I had to have more ultrasounds. And I had this experience of being in the ultrasound tech's office. And she was, doing a scan, and she was like, I am so sorry. You must be so uncomfortable right now. And I'm like, I'm not uncomfortable. What are you talking about? She was like, your bladder is so full. Like, how are you not bursting on the table? Like, you have to go pee because I feel bad. I feel like I'm hurting you. I was like, okay. And I went and peed, and I had no idea, no idea. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not feeling like basic needs, right? Like I am not feeling this need to go to the bathroom. Like how bizarre is that?
Right.
And looking back, and I don't know if it was something that shifted during my first pregnancy or if I've always had this experience and I just don't remember. But I generally did not have those cues. It was like I was numb. And I
Mm,
realized that like my whole body was kind of like that. Like I wasn't experienced, I was not in my body. I was so much in my head. So I was like, okay, this has to change. I got to figure this out. And that's when I started to do more of the embodiment. And even just like as simple things as checking in with my body, like, hey, do I have to pee? Like, things like that, which I mean, it sounds so silly, but it made such a huge difference to my postpartum experience that time around. Like just
yes.
taking care of those needs. So that kind of triggered that part of my
Wow. Oh my gosh. I mean, seriously though, that's actually quite simple but profound, you know? And I wonder if it's kind of like, I mean, not your fault or anything like that, but I know a lot of clinicians or just people who see people on a regular basis, like doesn't matter what the setting is practice wise, but if you are seeing people back to back to back, there's hardly time to go to the bathroom. You have to be very
yeah,
strategic about that. So I can imagine you just having also really big capacity to hold.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm
And
sure. I'm sure. And I was kind of exploring this a little bit too. With the postpartum women that I work with, so many of them aren't in their body, right? They're living
mm,
in their heads. They're living in this just state of anxiety and stress and just all up here. And I wonder how much, this is kind of, I'm jumping around now, and, we're taught to ignore our bodies and ignore these cues throughout our entire lives. And I know my example is probably a little on the extreme side, but we are taught to like ignore just basic needs, and how much of just healing postpartum is making sure we're meeting our own needs, like honoring our hunger cues, honoring our need to go to the bathroom, and just meeting those basic needs. Because how are we meeting those needs of our baby if we're not meeting, our own needs as well?
Right. Right. Yeah. Speaking of, it's kind of like I love how you focus on mothering the mother. And that's what I like to focus on too. Yes, I've said it before on other podcast episodes, but the baby mother connection is important and all of that. And like you said, it's so connected. Like they are one thing, like, and you call it the dyad. And I love
Mm-hmm.
that. And I almost think of these like care circles. Have you heard of that? Like care circle mapping. And you can do it in
No.
pregnancy. You can do it at whatever time in your life at all. But like if you say are the center of this circle and you have concentric circles going around, who's taking care of you at close proximity? And then maybe a little further out is another ring of people. And then even further out, another ring of people that you could potentially reach out to. And if baby is right in the center, mom and maybe a partner, maybe grandparents, other caretakers are right there, maybe a doula, maybe, nanny of some kind. And then you have bigger rings. But if everyone is at the center of their own circle, what does that really look like,
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's a really interesting way to, what is that called? Circle mapping? I'll have to look at that. That's
Yeah,
a
care circle
care map,
mapping.
care circle
Yeah.
mapping. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I do it in another way too for women, and it's like a womb mandala, and
Okay.
it's significant where people are, not just what ring, like closest to farthest, but also left, right, front, back.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Kind of like, I don't know, telling, I guess, about your world and who's influencing you and supporting you
Yeah.
and all of that. So cool. But yeah, I'd love to hear about these women that you are serving. And you already mentioned them a little bit, how they're kind of coming to you. Sounds like they're fairly cut off, maybe from the neck down, unaware of these physical cues. They're anxious, maybe depressed. Like what else are they experiencing that they're coming to you with?
Um, a lot of mood stuff.
Mm,
I think we have normalized feeling crummy mood wise postpartum. And, I have moms that will go to their 6 week visit and they'll maybe score off the charts on their postnatal depression screen. And no support will be offered, or they'll be told, oh, it's just normal, just get some sleep, or oh, you'll grow out of it as the baby gets older. And I think we've normalized all of that, and luckily I think a lot of women are becoming attuned to the fact that no, like that's not okay. Right? Like,
yeah, I
I
can
need other
almost
support. Yeah.
right. I can almost liken that to, at least in my world, leaking, bladder
Yeah.
leakage is very normal, quote unquote. It's not.
Right.
It's just very common. But I wonder what that says about our postpartum support as we see it today. And maybe you can um, elaborate on that and what you're noticing and how it can change. Because actually, what I am so excited to hear from you is like, what can we do about this? Because I personally also envision, and I don't mean to like sound naive because I know these things exist, right? Like this experience happens for a lot of women, like you're saying.
Mhm.
It's very prevalent, and this is what they're coming to you with. But is there a way for postpartum to not feel so crummy?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting that you brought up the leakage part, because I have such a vivid memory of being in clinic with a male clinician as my supervisor in school, and him, a woman having some leaking issues, and him saying, "Oh, it's normal. She had a baby." I have such a vivid memory of that. And I didn't have kids yet. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's just something to expect when we have a baby. And so this is what we're teaching our clinicians, and even in the naturopathic world, which is a little bit more open, I think, to things being different, or the fact that, common does not mean normal. But I have such a profound memory of that, and how sad that's just so heartbreaking to me.
Yeah.
What
Wow.
we've normalized.
Right.
And yeah, I think to your point of can postpartum be experienced in a different way? I really, really think so. And I see it with women that I've worked with, and they maybe don't start out feeling super great. But I think that they end up doing so. We just have this idea that we're supposed to be exhausted, we're supposed to be depleted, we're supposed to just kind of push through or bounce back or get back to our normal, which, I don't really know what that is. I don't think that our pre-pregnancy state is our normal state after having a baby, nor do I think that it's supposed to be, and that's a good thing, right? But I don't think that postpartum has to look like the way that it does, because when moms are supported, when they're well nourished, when they're getting their nutrients that the majority of women are depleted in, when they are getting the support with their mood, they're getting the support with their hormone changes, with all the changes that happen during pregnancy. I mean, we go through such profound changes, and if we just try to go back to normal postpartum, that's when I think we have all of these kind of issues that just pop up: this exhaustion, the depletion, the mood problems, the profound hair loss, all of that. I think happens is when we don't honor that time, and we don't maybe, I guess, feel like we have to heal from that, or feel like it's something that we have to actually pay attention to, or put our effort into doing.
Right.
Or that we don't feel like we're worthy of doing that. I mean, that wound is so deep with women. Like, are we worthy of taking that time to heal with ourselves and to focus on ourselves postpartum?
Right. Like being open to receiving care,
Right.
seeking it out in the first place.
Right.
Like
Right.
it is
Exactly.
taking resources, right, to put back into you, but that is part
Right.
of mothering the mother. And like you said, I feel like that probably is. I can only imagine it being so true that that is what truly moves the needle for our babies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
are you feeling like when women come to you, they kind of already, I'm wondering if you have to kind of reframe a lot of that for them, where if they're coming to you like, I have a problem, I need to fix this, get back to this
Yeah.
way of being, and then you're like, hang on, and
Yeah.
kind of helping them through that and then helping them see the light a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our expectations for what postpartum is supposed to be like is, I mean, it's so crazy, right? We have this expectation that we pop out the baby, we maybe take 6 weeks to recover, and then we're good, right? That's what the medical system tells us, that we have that 6 week visit, and then we are cleared for all activities, and we are good to go, and we should be back to normal by then, right?
Oh my God.
And that's what our that's what we get pushed, though, right? That's how we get that bounce back kind of feeling. Oh, let me get my body back, let me get all of these things back. And it's just, I mean, postpartum lasts for years, and I would argue that we're, after having babies, we're kind of always postpartum, because we know that there are
Yeah.
changes in the brain, right, that are lifelong. And we just have such unrealistic expectations, and so there's a lot of kind of unlearning that what we've seen our entire lives. And this is in no way, shape, or form any of the women that I see. It's not their fault. It's
No.
the lie we've been sold
Right.
as women.
Right. Okay, wait. Now I want you to almost paint the picture of what this support can actually look like. Because you named a few things, but maybe you want to share about what does that support like tangibly look like, and how are women making this happen for themselves?
Yeah, so the way that I like to work with women, it's really both with the mom and the baby, is one-on-one in a really close container, because I feel like I can make the most difference holding the mom, mothering the mother, by really coming into, these women are so amazing to let me kind of intimately come into their lives, right? And the very first thing we have to look at is, did mom even recover from delivery? Because I see moms 1-2 years out and they haven't healed. They haven't really recovered even physically from that birth, not even to mention if there's birth trauma or anything else that came up at that time. So starting there is really the very first thing. And then the foundations of a woman's health during this time, like getting back to basics with nutrition and with nourishment. Our gut changes so much during pregnancy. We have a decrease in the diversity of our gut microbiome. We have increased gut permeability. Like, we just don't digest food as well during pregnancy and postpartum. So getting back to just what is going to be nourishing for that woman. And it is, very individualized. It depends on the person that's in front of me, what is going to be the most nourishing for them, what they're depleted in. Not every woman is depleted in every nutrient, of course. So it's going to be really, really, really individualized with what they need. And then the basics, like, are we moving in an appropriate way? Which I'm sure you can speak to more than I can. But have we pushed through and we were back in the gym at 3 weeks postpartum? Or are we not moving at all? And, we really took that confinement period seriously, which, some women do that as well, which may not have been the best for their bodies. How are you breathing? How are you sleeping? Like, our sleep absolutely changes after having a baby. We fall asleep faster, we get into a deeper sleep faster, and then we're able to wake easier in order for us to respond to baby. But if a mom is waking really easily and not able to readily fall back asleep in the middle of the night, like, she's missing out on really good sleep there that is healing and helps us manage those massive hormone swings that we have postpartum. And then, doing all the I call it the extra work, but it's really not, right? Like, it's probably the core work is the identity work, the emotional work, it's not junk, but that's how I want to refer to it right now. That comes up.
Yeah.
All of that comes up. Like, I from a very personal experience, I had no idea I even had a mother wound.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And
so that was confronting to have to deal with that and, those wounds that I carried from there.
Would you mind sharing a little bit about that? Like, does that feel charged or wrong?
Yeah,
I
can absolutely share with that. My mother is amazing. She's, still around, still a mother. But she had a very challenging transition to motherhood herself. Her mom passed away in a very traumatic way, but right before she had my sister. So there was a lot of trauma there and that she didn't deal with. And I think that she was not able to kind of emotionally connect with my sister and I in a way that we needed. And that definitely came up insofar as I don't know that I knew what to do with emotions when they were there and they inevitably come up after birth. There was a lot of criticism that came up, and all of that came right to the forefront after having. I think it came out a little bit more after my second, or at least I was more aware of it after my second, for sure. And just those dealing with, the stuff that I got from my mother, that she got from her mother, that goes back, forever long, coming up was really jarring, and really almost, I think, confronting that was something that I had to deal with to heal, because it didn't have anything to do with or what I learned with the physical body, or with learning, or with healing the emotional body either postpartum, right? I was never taught this in school. And so having that come up and be like, oh my gosh, oh no, what is happening? I have to deal with this. I mean, ended up being fabulous, but it was definitely there.
Yeah, I can relate with having a mother wound, and it's womb work has been something that I've been, I think, focusing on the last year, to be honest,
Mhm.
a little more than what my past dealing with it has been. But yeah, my mother's also here and around and love her endlessly. And we're such teachers for each other. And um I'll share a little bit because your story is so, yeah, like I think a lot of women can relate to that. And with mine, I ended up doing somato emotional release training this summer.
Oh, fun.
And yeah, have you ever done that? Like
Yeah.
craniosacral? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So you know,
Amazing. That's so
yeah.
amazing.
I mean, it's so funny because I wrote a like newsletter blog, whatever about it. But I just remember because it's the fourth training out of the four. And before, you're sitting at these tables and it's like rows and rows of tables, two chairs behind them. You're pointed towards a lecturer and you're basically just receiving. Oh, sorry, that's my dog. But in this one, it was like all chairs looped up in a circle. And I'm like, oh, as soon as I walked in, I realized this is going to be more group therapy. And at one point during the training, it was day 4 and day 3, day 4. And we actually focused a lot on the womb and just like the birth life continuum to death.
Mhm.
And they were kind of preparing us like, okay, someone could have birth trauma themselves as a baby coming out. As a woman, like you could have birth trauma with your baby, with babies that didn't come through, like, so
Mhm.
many aspects, and it could develop in so many different ways for people. And for me, when I was actually on the table, I got in touch with my womb and I didn't like, internally, I didn't go back into my mother's womb or anything like that, which is totally possible in a scenario. But I could get in touch with what she felt when I was in
Mhm.
her womb.
Mhm.
And it was like fear.
Mhm.
And she had a fear of me because her doctor was someone who told her that her pelvis was too small to give birth vaginally. And she is a petite lady, I'll give her that. And they ended up doing a cesarean, which
Mhm.
her understanding in her own body is like the cesarean saved me and it saved you. I'm happy that I had it, and she had support afterwards. Like she had a great postpartum experience, and everything. But I felt like that fear was still inside of me, and I could feel that being a part that was like a disconnect for us.
Yeah.
Where then in real life, once I had that chance to just grieve that, sadness of feeling this, like, oh my God, my mom was scared of me. And reconciling that in real life, coming out of it, it's like we've never been closer.
Yeah. Oh,
It's so crazy. But the womb work pre, post, whenever is so
yeah.
huge for the
Oh
mother
my
wound.
goodness.
Because even,
Oh.
yeah, like you said, it is like lineage.
Mhm.
It's lineage work. It is reaching into your grandmother's stories, your great grandmother's stories, and beyond and beyond. And yeah, you get to break the cycle if
Yeah.
you're aware.
Yeah. No, and I love thinking of this work as how, I mean, we are affecting our future generations as well. And how incredible is that we get to give that to our kids, right? And our grandkids, and us doing this work. I mean, I'm such a strong believer that women, and particularly moms, can change the world, and we're going to be the ones that fix humanity and save us. And part of that is through what the work that we're so willing to do, that our generation seems to be taking on and so willing to take on. And that is going to be what is healing our children and the world. And kind of off topic, but
No, I mean, I think it's all related. Everything's connected. I mean, I think that is part of like women's work.
Yeah.
If you are, I mean, the gift of pregnancy, the portal of birth, becoming a
Mm-hmm.
mother, like you have a lot of responsibility
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of power right there. Just even
Yes.
in the capacity to hold life. With great power comes great responsibility. Hey,
Yeah.
Spider-Man. Like it's
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that's something that we don't necessarily touch on enough with postpartum is how powerful we are in that state of transition, right? Everything is coming to the surface. Every physical issue that we have to deal with is coming up. Every mental, emotional issue, everything is coming to the surface. But that is such a gift because we get to heal that then. When it is brought to our attention is when we get that opportunity to heal it. And that is so freaking powerful. Excuse my language, but that's just
No, 100%. You can cuss.
yeah. Okay, great.
Yes. I mean, even I was talking to another client and it's always a piece of the puzzle too, right? Especially if someone is in relationship and they've just had a baby, maybe they had some sexual trauma or just a not a clear understanding of how their sexuality really worked, and now it's like everything's tossed up into the air. What the fuck is going to happen? And how do I get, yeah, it's kind of the same thing. Like, how do I get back to this way of being? And it's like, okay, hang on. Even from a sex life perspective, you're probably not going to go back to the way things once were. Like, things are obviously going to shift into a brand new landscape. What does that look like for you? And how do you want to traverse it? You know?
Yeah.
So same
And I
thing.
think what's cool about that is it can look so much better, not just with sex, but with our health and everything, right? Like it can be, and sex is such an important part of it too, but everything has the potential to be so much better that if we're chasing this pre-pregnancy, pre-mom life state, we're not going to get to that place, right? We're not going to get through that portal and into that incredible place that's uncomfortable, but so transformative.
I literally just thought like postpartum is a total rebrand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Total rebrand.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. But it can look like whatever you want it to, which is so
Yes.
freaking cool that
Yes.
you can shape that and pick how you want this to go now. What do you want your health to look like? How do you want to feel in that postpartum state? How do you want to feel as a mom? So many, I feel like women think that like it's not a death sentence, but there's a little bit of mourning, like, oh, I'm never going to be that maiden or that like that
Sure.
woman that I was before. And it's like, no, but you get to be so much better if you want to, and not better, just different. And it can, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. But.
No, I hear you. And actually, the first episode of this season of this podcast was about that kind of understanding where I was with my friend. We were just talking out loud about both kind of wanting to give birth very soon. Don't know when, don't know like anything of those details, but it was like, okay, how are we going to actually honor this phase right now?
Yeah.
And yeah, honor the maidenhood. And that way, maybe, yeah, the grief isn't as strong. And like, for sure, there's a piece of it there,
Yeah.
and all of that. Like, that's totally like true, for
Yeah.
some. And, but yeah, it's like the rebrand gets to be a gift and this new version of yourself, another layer added on, multiple new identities maybe added on, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
get to be integrated.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I feel like all the work that you're doing, the support you're offering, from, mood help and nourishment, sleep, movement, all these, you know, they're not small pieces. They are big pieces
No.
and they change weekly.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that's a cool aspect of the way that I can work with women is that when I do work so closely with women, I can, somebody can call me or send me an email and be like, hey, my baby didn't sleep last night. I feel like crap. What can I do today to get through the day? And how can we make our night better tonight? And so we can in real time, like troubleshoot these issues, which I think is really cool. And it wasn't how I was able to practice when I was just in clinic. And it's a deeper level of being able to work with these women who are, of course, the day-to-day can get really, really tough. And it feels hard because it is hard, it is,
Right.
and I can be that daily kind of support. And then depending on what they need, we can bring in other modalities. So I love to use homeopathy with my clients, and herbs are so beautiful in the postpartum space. And so but it really depends on what the woman in front of me needs,
Right.
or, on the screen, I guess.
Totally. So yeah, everything you're doing right now is virtual, I would assume.
Yep. Yeah, I do have some clients locally here, but I only have a
Cool.
handful because I'm mainly virtual. I don't know where we're going to be next, what the plan is.
Ooh, wait, that's exciting. So maybe another move in the future?
Yeah, I don't think this is permanent for us. It's been a wonderful adventure, but I think that, in the next couple of years, we'll think about tackling what's next, and where in the world we want to be.
Oh, that's so exciting. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I feel like just from a, I guess, business operation standpoint and
Mhm.
from like a clientele standpoint, I could see it being so valuable to have someone like you in their back pocket, essentially. Like, oh, let me just text Dr. Kate really fast with this question. And because you know them so intimately,
Yeah.
um,
Mhm.
yeah, like you can, like you said, troubleshoot and give them actual tangible things.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, that's how I love to work with clients like that. I love getting voice messages from people being like, "Hey, can we work on this real quick?" And it's like, "Yep, absolutely. We got this." And it just feels like we're not that through clinic work that I wasn't able to really touch these women, but it just feels different. Like it feels like a different level of care that I'm able to
Yeah.
provide.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel the same. Like when I was in clinic, it wasn't like I wasn't touching people's lives, but you
Yeah.
only get to be so surface
Yeah.
or so deep, I guess,
Mhm.
with a certain amount of time. But if, they have access to you whenever, then yeah,
Yeah.
that's, of course, you would develop some kind of deep, deep connection and yeah, care that
Right.
really penetrates.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think another aspect of our work in the postpartum world is working with other providers. And I love how kind of my world has opened up to that in the last couple of years. Not that I didn't collaborate before, but it just feels very different now. I think because my work I've been trying to go so much deeper. So I've had to bring in other providers. I love that. I love collaborating and bringing in other people and other people's areas of expertise, because it's impossible to know. As much as I would love to know everything, I'm never going to know everything.
I know. I know. I mean, speaking of, like, you're a naturopathic doctor, you're a lactation
Mhm,
consultant, and
mhm,
you're a sleep coach.
mhm.
So already right there, like you're covering some major things that people need
Mhm.
support with. And so I'm curious then, who are the providers that you like to collaborate with or love to collaborate
Uh,
with?
Physical therapist,
Hey.
because I've been thinking about this week. Like my education into the pelvis was, I mean, it was horrific. Like, yes, I had some anatomy, work.
Sure.
I can
Yes.
do a pelvic exam, and I had some gyne training and stuff like that. But like, I don't know. I don't know. So
Right.
the prolapse, and I'd be like, okay, take these herbs and then go see somebody else, because I can't do
Yeah.
this.
Yes. Yes.
So I
Totally
mean, I think
fair.
postpartum is so ripe for collaborative care, right?
Yeah.
And then there's stuff like in the lactation world, like needing to work with dentists if there's some tongue
Mm.
tie stuff going on. I love working with any kind of body worker. Cranial sacral has been a godsend for so many of my babies.
Mm.
Um, who have just structural issues, or some tension going on in the body, and chiropractors, and I mean the whole gamut. I think at this point in my career, like I don't feel like I have anything to prove. Like if I don't know anything, know
Totally.
something, like I'm not gonna pretend or try it.
Happy.
Like
Totally. It's like happy to refer to the
right, exactly.
preferred
Exactly.
provider.
Yeah, exactly. And there's enough people to go around. There's enough clients for everyone, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And it takes a village.
yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that I'm jumping around a ton, but for pregnant women, if you don't have your providers set up, like have those people that you know, so you're not scrambling if something pops up. You're not scrambling if there is a lactation issue. You're not scrambling if there's a prolapse post-birth and post-delivery. And I also think it makes you less likely to ignore those issues that pop up if you already have somebody in your corner that you can call on.
Yeah, I agree. Do you know anything about human design?
Mm, very little. I just started looking at it a few months ago.
Yes. Do you happen to know what you are? Like
I know I'm a generator, but I don't know tons beyond that.
Okay. I love
Yeah,
me some
yeah.
generators. I feel like a woman I just interviewed and talked to is also a generator. There's an aspect of my human design that's like, it's the fourth line. I'm a 2-4 profile, and the
Okay.
fourth line is all about your community, essentially, though, like the network. And
Mhm.
I feel so blessed to like kind of already know who these people are that, are in my world. And I feel so grateful that anyone who comes in here and has a question and is like, who should I go see? Da, 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 da. I'm like, here, this person or
Yeah,
whatever. And
yeah.
yeah, it's an aspect of my design that I very much appreciate.
That's what I've been meaning to. I mean, I feel like I have a list of things that I want to dive into. I'm like, okay, so now I need to learn my
Ooh.
chart, my astrology chart, and
Yeah.
then human design. Where can I go next? What's my
Like,
lifeline? I don't know.
yes. Oh my
So,
gosh.
so I'll have to focus more on the human design aspect at some point here.
Yes. Okay. Well, then you have to go listen to the episode that's going to be right before this one. Then,
Perfect.
Alexandra Cole talking about it. And actually, what's interesting, kind of to tie in something that you do and something that she and I talked about, which didn't mean for this to necessarily be the focus, but we were talking about kids and sleeping. And she brought in the idea of the 5 4 5 energy types and
Mhm.
how that manifests and like looks like in children and
Mm.
what their kind of sleep patterns, energy patterns really look like and how to support that. And I found that so fascinating and something that, the guy who brought human design to the
Yeah.
earth, I guess, to the consciousness, Ra, he said that human design is for the children. And so
My
for
goodness.
us as women to become embodied and know more about ourselves, yes, amazing, needed. And how can we help our children become more embodied? Maybe we take a look at their design and see if that, like, it's such a good experiment. Like, who knows if it's true, but like, let's just see. And
Right. And does it really matter? I mean, if it gives you like a little window into your child, right? Like I mean, I feel like that's really cool. And and
exactly.
I had no idea. I'm gonna have to look up this, especially
Yeah.
thinking back on how much my first I mean, sleep was just a struggle. And I wonder where he is on there.
Yes. Yes. I'd be fascinated to know. I'm a projector energy type, and so is my partner. And
Uh-huh.
something that I took away from that was like, it's very important to have a wind down routine.
Oh, interesting.
Like, our energy is very inconsistent, let's just say.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, it just takes a little bit of time and spaciousness to wind down, and we can fall asleep great and stay asleep and all of
Mhm.
that. But to truly like have that rest be a
Yeah.
priority, at least that's my also personal opinion. I mean, obviously
Oh,
sleep is
that's so
important for every
interesting.
human, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's so fascinating because then what can that tell you about your child then too? Like if they're a projector, do they just need that extra time in the evening I mean, all kids do well with wind down time, but like do they need extra time just to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
be brought down? Oh, that's fascinating. I'm gonna have to look at it. More to
Yes.
learn.
Yes. Go. I'm not going to say anything more because there's so much more to it and Alexandra nails it. So, yes,
Excellent.
go listen to that one later.
I will.
Um well, dang. That was a lot of good stuff. Is there anything maybe lingering that you feel like you haven't had a chance to say that you need to get out?
No, no. I mean, I think the I really think that I cannot overstate the importance of both mom and baby being supported postpartum. Like you can't you can't leave one out of that equation. I like to talk about postpartum as a dance between mom and baby. And if one person is not a part of the dance, like there's something that feels harder about this. And that it's not all about supporting baby. I hear a lot of people talk about, oh, let's mother the mother so she can mother the baby. And it's not all about the baby. It's also about the mother coming into her power, feeling good, feeling grounded, so she can have a healthy and beautiful rest of her life, because her life doesn't end at postpartum and it doesn't end with her baby, right? Like she has so much more to offer the world. And so I really hope that kind of as a society that we can come around to the importance of just focusing on both together, because both pieces are so incredibly important.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I'm going to let that simmer for a moment. I'm wondering if there's like a way, or do you find that there is a way to, if there's a partner involved, like how to get them on board, or how do you involve them in this, healing dyad relationship, and then maybe you have a third party, another caretaker of some kind.
Yeah, no, I mean the partner is so important, and I can't believe we haven't touched on that yet. Left one person out of the whole mix.
Takes two to tango.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, it's I mean the partner's role is incredibly important too, and especially in that immediate postpartum time, to be making sure the mother is well supported. And yes, bonding with baby, doing the skin to skin with baby, that's all super important for the partner as well. But really, I like their role to be to make sure that the mom is well supported, and really know what to watch out for. I've had some really interesting conversations lately with friends and some colleagues that we didn't even realize what a bad place we were in postpartum, especially after my first. And I've had so many women say this to me lately. I didn't even realize how bad it was. Why didn't my husband notice? Or why didn't my partner notice? And I don't know if it's because we're so good at pushing that down and not acknowledging that and brushing it off and being like, oh, we're just supposed to, so what we're supposed to do. Or if our partners aren't, they don't really know what to look for. Are they not recognizing that? And then I think you also have the other aspect is that the relationship changes postpartum, and it can also grow and transform and be absolutely incredible, but there also can be a lot of strain and conflict there. I remember, I'm going to put myself on the spot here a little bit, but I remember one night very early on with my first, and my baby didn't sleep, I didn't sleep. And I also had, I had some mood stuff going on, and I would watch and make sure he was breathing and was hyper vigilant, and all of that happening. But how we would do it is my husband would get up early with the baby and take the baby so I could get a couple of solid hours of sleep. And that was working really well. And one night we were getting ready for bed, and he turned to me and he goes, honey, do you think that I could sleep in the morning? And I just lost my shit. Like, I was like, are you freaking kidding me? I pushed this baby out. I am feeding him with my body. I am not sleeping. And you think that you can, how dare you? How dare you? And really, like, I also needed to recognize that he was struggling and he needed a couple hours of sleep. And we should have had, called in our reinforcements and had somebody else take baby for a couple hours, so both of us could be rested and get a couple solid hours, because it's amazing how much just a couple hours sometimes can really help. But instead, I've turned that into resentment. So I kind of am going off track here, but I think that just both partners going into postpartum, knowing what each other looks like when they're struggling, and knowing how they are best supported, because that's going to be different for everyone. But I could have really used him to say, hey, I'm going to cook you this meal. I'm going to make sure you're eating, X, Y, and Z, or eating, a few solid meals a day, and getting this nourishment. And he didn't know he needed to do that. So it was kind of unfair on everybody for everybody. And I put that expectation of him of just kind of needing to know what I needed. And that's not appropriate either. So kind of just everybody needs to know what to expect there.
Totally. I mean, it's like you said, you guys probably spent a lot of focus on the birth.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't necessarily a big conversation about what is postpartum going to look like? What are our responsibilities going to be? And I find, do you know Eve Rodsky? She wrote the book Fair Play, and
Yeah.
there's cards and stuff like that. So, I mean, I talk about Keto a lot on the podcast. She's my dog and
Yeah.
our dog. We got her last year. And because of this extra responsibility, that was a whole other being in the picture where I'm at home working. He goes out of the house to work. The resentment was so there. I so
Yes.
appreciate you naming that. And we ended up having a huge conversation. I ordered the cards. We did the cards. He realized, oh my God, you have 28 responsibilities and I only have 13. Sorry, babe, I'm throwing you under the bus a little bit. But he says this story himself too, so it's fine. But he was like, oh my God, I had no idea. And like, I thought I
Mhm.
was pulling my weight, and sorry, I wasn't. And let's just rebalance the cards that feels fair for us in our lives. And
Love that.
yeah, it's been like that for a year, and we've had such a good balance, and we're in like
Yeah.
another little transition zone right now. So we pulled out the cards again. We still have yet to do them, but yeah, it's
Oh, I love that. I love that. And just making it so it's a way that feels good for everybody.
yeah,
I Yeah, I have a mentor that talks about making the implicit explicit in your relationship. So it's like making those things that you think they know, for whatever reason, they should be able to read your mind. I'm like that in my relationship.
it's the
But
romantic in us, I think, right?
yes, you should know what I want.
Yeah.
But making those explicit. So sitting down and having that conversation where it's like, I actually have this expectation, and half the time they don't even know, right? That we had that expectation, or it was something that was even on our mind.
Right, right. I love that piece of advice right there. Make the implicit explicit. Yes. And that's what those cards help. I mean, if you're kind of feeling stuck on how to even address this stuff, and like you don't even know maybe what those responsibilities are, you only see what you see on Instagram or out in real life with the way parents are parenting, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's how it's going to be. But you don't really know until it happens, but it is good, I think, to prepare yourselves and talk about maybe what's this potential here? What's the capacity that each of us are going to be able to have? I think that's important. Yeah.
And I think you make a really good point there of that it could very well be different for you as a couple, right? Like you see what's out there on social media, and it's so easy to get sucked into all of that. And that's what you expect. And I think that's a lot of where the resentment comes from, is that you think that it should look different, or you think that it should be different in some way, or you have resentment before it even starts because you just assume that they're going to behave in some manner. So I think also just being aware that it's going to be different for every couple.
Yeah, just like the postpartum care is going to be very unique to the person. And yeah, thank you for elaborating on that a little bit. I so appreciate that. Yeah, I'm wondering if we should give partners some things to maybe look at, or keep an eye out for,
Yeah, no, I
besides
think
the
that's
bags under your
really
eyes, or like
right.
what are they like, what can they visually see happening?
Right, right. Or at least just check in and not let fine be an answer. Right?
Yeah.
Like, not let us push that down,
Mm,
and just making sure we just checking in. I think
like
is really important too.
there's a visual I get, and I forget who wrote the book and what book that is, but it's like a triangle, right? And it's kind of like with two people's eyes both gazing down at the baby. They're not making eye
Mhm.
contact with each other.
Mhm.
And I feel like you just saying that, having a proper check-in, being face to face, eyes to eyes, heart to
Mhm.
heart, and having that like 5 minutes. Like, hey,
Right,
how are you?
right,
What do you need here? And
right.
be honest. Don't
Yes.
stuff it down.
Yes. Because I like that visual because it's so easy to do this. You brought this human in the world that is relying on you to keep it alive. And it's so easy to forget that there's another person
Yeah.
involved. Which sounds crazy, I know, but
No, no. I get it. Oh my gosh. So funny, so cool. Well, okay. Dr. Kate, I know it's getting late where you are. How do you prefer people to reach out to you if they want to learn more about you and your work and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so my website is drkatepurvis.com. And I love getting emails from people. So hello at drkatepurvis.com is amazing. I do Instagram sporadically. I'm not the best with it, but I'm trying to be better. But I do at least answer DMs if people reach out to me there.
Perfect.
But I love to connect with postpartum women. I love women reaching out with questions and I love providing support in any way that I can, even if that's just, pointing somebody in the right direction to find a resource or a person to work with. So reach out.
I love it. I love it. And it's so funny. I didn't mention at the beginning of the episode, but the reason why I reached out to Dr. Kate is because of her freaking website. Like, I found you through the designer that you used, Emily. Oh, what's her last
Oh,
name?
I can't.
Nubar.
New bar. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh-huh.
We can link her too,
Yeah.
because her work is
Daytime
incredible.
designs is she is. She's
Okay.
amazing.
Yeah. And I found her through a network that I'm a part of, Guided.
Mhm.
And I looked at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I was kind of hoping to find, at least in terms of someone to talk to or collaborate with in some way.
Yeah.
And your website is beautiful and full of just like, I don't know, inspirational messaging. And it's just, yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, she did a wonderful job. And I'm so happy you reached out. You having a website, you get so much kind of spam from marketers and things. I usually let that stuff kind of like go. And I opened yours and I was like, oh my gosh, I went to your website. Who is this woman? I need to know her. I need to talk to her.
Yeah.
I just feel like having other people that view this world and have similar missions, like it's so important that we're able to have these conversations and collaborate and just share our messages. So thank you so much for reaching out and thank you for your podcast. It is gorgeous. I'm a new listener and will be listening
Yay.
religiously now.
Well,
And
thank
passing it
you.
along to people because it's
Yes.
amazing. And I love that you're out
Yes.
there spreading this
Mm.
message about just women's health in general and what that can look like and how it can be, I think, different than what we expect.
Yeah, painting a new picture for it all. The
Yeah,
two of us
yeah,
are doing. So
absolutely.
thank you so much for
Thank you.
reflecting all of that and for being here. I will link everything in the show notes if you are curious about working with Dr. Kate Purvis. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.